Welcome, CAD 100 folks and others, to your kind of intro lesson to get us started within the AutoCAD environment. We'll be focusing on AutoCAD 2010 in the course of this lecture and some of the new changes that exist in it. So I'll go ahead and fire up the program real fast for us. Now, for those of you who may be familiar with the 2007, 2008, or older versions, this new environment is going to be a little bit different for you. For those of you who have no experience in this, there will be no change at all. But for those of you who are transitioning to 2010 versions, we'll be taking a look at just some of the settings that are different and also some of the things that you can do to switch back. Now, first off, you probably have received an email or instructions on how you can download this version of AutoCAD free from Autodesk and also have it for a 13-month free trial period, which is pretty cool. And you should be able to download it, install it, and then use the serial key that they have listed on their website within their community to actually access it for 13 months. So definitely want to check it out. It's free, just takes a little bit of time to do it in terms of inputting your information in the download, and it'll be really cool. So a little side note there. Now, there's a couple of terms that you'll learn to be getting used to with the new AutoCAD 2010. One is the term ribbon. Now, typically we're used to two toolbars from the older versions, and now we have sort of a toolbar that's been converted to what they refer to as a ribbon, and it's really like a toolbar that has flyouts. For example, for those of you that are experienced, you know that the draw toolbar contains a lot of drawing lines and arcs and things, and they're all here. In fact, if I hit this little down arrow that you see, it expands it out to the full spectrum of tools that come with the draw toolbar. Even's got a little flyout window of details and those kind of things, which we'll talk about that later. Now, for those of you that just don't really want to be forced into this new format, there's a neat little trick down here in the bottom right that I'll introduce you to before we go over the main topics, and that is down here you see the word, or see this little gear shape and the workspace switching option right here. If I click on the little bar that says 2D drafting and annotation, not necessarily something you have to do, but just watch, it gives me the option to switch back to AutoCAD Classic. In fact, it gives me the option to format this overall screen into some type of, some paneling very focused on certain types of design. For example, there's a bunch of panels set up for 3D modeling. You click on it, it brings up all the palettes and things associated to do a good 3D model. 2D drafting and annotation, which is what we were on, and then you've got AutoCAD Classic. I click on this, and now it switches back to the older format. Now it looks a little bit different, but it's still the standard toolbars in their formats that we're used to and became accustomed to in 2008 and older versions. So if you just don't want to deal with the new format and want to be in the old way, go down to the bottom to the switching toggle switch down here and switch it to AutoCAD Classic. For the most part though, since we are in the new format, many of you are new to this overall process, I will be working from the new format with the ribbons. Okay. Now, having said all that, let's talk about what we're looking at in this overall environment. First, we begin with this space right here, the black zone that you see my cursor moving around in. And this is the typical term that I use, of course, is cursor. This is referred to as model space. It is the space in which we draw. Okay, when we start to learn draw lines and circles and such, this is where we focus on. You can see the model tab down the bottom left. It says model. Now, there's another type of space that we will use later on in the semester, and it is called paper space. Here's how you get to it. See the layout 1, layout 2 options down at the bottom? Of course, if you let your cursor stay there long enough, it will give you an example. By clicking on one of these, a left click of course, you taken to what we refer to as paper space. This is a representation of real life paper, and will come into play when we start doing printing and that type of layout. If you get here by accident, no big deal. Just go down and click back on the model tab and you'll be back into model space. So far so good. Now, your basic layouts and commands associated with Microsoft Office programs and other such things are fairly similar. You have up at the top here, you have your new to create a new file, open to open an existing file, the save button. You have the undo command, which is useful for us, and then the redo, and of course you have your plot option. Now, the only difference between printing and plotting is the words. You know, that we just use a more technical word, plotting, instead of printing, but it's the same thing, same procedures as if you're printing off a Word file or an Excel file. But those are the standard formats up here, and you've even got your expanding capability to bring in more. We'll talk about that a little bit later. There's also the down arrow right here next to the giant A, which brings up the good old-fashioned new, open, save, save as, printing, publishing, and those kind of tools. Save, save as are ones that we're very commonly used to. New and open, all kinds of things that we're used to as well. So this is how you get to the good old-fashioned save, save as section, news, if you don't want to use the toolbar buttons up at the top. A quick escape on your keyboard takes care of any type of things in your way. If you pull a window up and you can't figure out how to get rid of it, just hit escape key on your keyboard and that takes care of it. Okay, doing good so far. So chapters 1 and 2 in your text, which are very important for you to have already read through or be going through during this lesson, deal with the overall AutoCAD environment and some of the many terms and some of the many tools associated with it. So it's important you're going through that stuff, even though we may not cover it completely here on the videos. I can't cover it all, obviously. So I hit the highlights. You have to make up the difference yourself in some of that reading. A lot of important terms there. But it's pointing out some of the different environments and some different tools. For example, look down here at this portion of your screen. These are toolbar buttons as well that are toggles on and off. For example, snap modes can be toggled on, toggled off. You'll notice if it's on, it'll be highlighted in blue, and off will be white. You've got your snap, you've got your grid, you've got your ortho mode, polar tracking, object snap tracking, allowable, disallowed dynamic UCS, dynamic input, show hide line weight, and quick properties. So a lot of neat little tools. Most common ones that we'll use will be the ones that involve ortho and polar, maybe polar tracking, and object snap for sure. Now, what is the snap? Well, the snap is related highly to the grid. When you click on the grid and activate it, probably have to have this on at the same time, there is a grid system, there it is, that works within the AutoCAD. You'll notice that my cursor is kind of jumping from point to point. That's because the grid is on, and now it's off, and the snap is on. Now, they're neat little tools, but we have never used them really efficiently or in any form of useful way in the past, 5-6 years. So we don't really worry about that too much. We will be worrying about the ortho mode and the polar tracking, and especially the object snap, often referred to as OSNAP, for O for object. Keep in mind these are two different things between the object snap and the snap mode. Very different things. We hardly ever touch the snap mode button, but we touch the object snap button a lot. So remember that. Now, we've got a whole bunch of other neat little tools that we're going to learn to use over the course and time. For animation, for zooming, all kinds of things. But let's talk a little bit about, and I'm going to draw just a quick line for us to work with. Let's talk a little bit about your mouse and your keyboard. First off, your mouse typically will have a roller on it, a little ball that allows you to roll forward and back. If you roll the ball forward, it allows you to zoom in and zoom out, which is a very useful tool. So take a moment or two to roll back and forth. You may not see a big difference on the screen, but you at least become familiar with it. Also, many of you will have rollers that can be pressed down. Notice that when I press and hold the roller, it switches the cursor to a hand and allows me to pan around. Okay, that's going to be a very useful tool for us later on. So pay close attention to that. Now, there's also an incredibly important window for you to always pay close attention to, and that is down here in the bottom of your screen. This is what I refer to as the command window, because it communicates to you. First off, we will type in information, and tell it to do things. For example, if I type in line command and hit enter, it allows me to begin the line command. Or if I type in circle and hit enter, it will allow me to begin the circle command. Both are tools that we'll use a lot later on, but the command line communicates the information. For example, when I begin a line command, it's going to tell me to do certain things, and so I need to be paying close attention down here to what it's telling me. If you don't pay close attention down here, you're going to miss instructions, not only from me on the screen, but also from your computer, because it needs certain inputs from you, and it asks for them down here. So get yourself used to paying close attention to this command window. The bottom line will be whatever is the most current. The two lines above will be what happened previously, or where it asks you information. If you want more lines, you can simply move your cursor close to the dividing point between the two, click and hold and drag, and you can increase the size of the command window. You can click, hold, and drag back down if you hit it right. There we go. And keep it the size it is initially. Very, very important stuff. Another neat little trick about this new format is the ability to rearrange this ribbon and these tools at the top of your screen. Now watch what I do. If I don't want the draw toolbar to be here and I want it to be located somewhere else on the screen, I can simply move my cursor up, click and hold. When I say hold, of course, I mean do not release the click. Don't release the left button. Click and hold, and I can drag. And you can notice that the toolbar is being dragged in between each other ribbon. Let's say I want it there. Perhaps I want to take this layers grouping and move it over to the far left and release. There's the layers. I'll move the draw within proximity to that. Maybe properties. Maybe I'll put properties over close to the layers. So you can rearrange as much as you like with these tool ribbons. Just click and hold. In fact, a lot of things can be done by just clicking and dragging. You also have the breakdowns of formats between home and insert, annotation, and we'll talk about parametrics and views and all that as we get into the course. But it's important for you to become familiar with what tools you can use and what you can't. Now, down here in the bottom right, you're going to notice that you have the scroll capability. You can scroll up and down on the screen as you want to. However, it's again something we hardly ever use. Down here on the bottom left of the screen, you're going to notice that you have the coordinate capability. Keep in mind, see this X and Y direction here? Y is vertical, X is horizontal. This entire mapping of AutoCAD, or this entire infinite screen that you see, has coordinates. So many positions in the X direction from this 0 point here, so many positions in the Y from the 0 point there, and then eventually we'll add in a Z. But this information is stored down in the bottom left, or actually presented to you. See, for right now, I am at coordinates 7, negative 0.6954, which means I'm a negative value in the Y, I'm a positive value in the X. Over on this side, I am negative X 8.8 and positive Y 4.8. So coordinates, very, very important to keep those in mind. So there's a lot of tools here, there's a lot of things for us to work with, and we'll be picking up a lot more as we go. And you'll get the hang of them in no time, not to worry. But let's talk about how you open and create a new file. Okay? So automatically AutoCAD creates a drawing 1 when you open it. But let's say we want to create a new file for ourselves. I'm going to simply go up to the new file button right here, or I can go to the A and hit new, which I like this one more because you get more of an option. And I'm going to select drawing. So I'm going to go to the A, the big A, new, and drawing. And a little window is going to pop up and it's called template. Now, first thing to understand is what a template is. A template in AutoCAD is a file that's got several settings ready to go so that you can just hop in and take off with it. You don't have to do as much prep drawing. And they're very, very handy. Typically, we will use ACAD named plot styles, all right, as our initial template. So I click on ACAD named plot styles, I hit open, and there we go. I now have drawing 2, but it's got a template. One way to notice it's a template is some of the settings that will be associated in the layers properties later on. Okay? Just remember, ACAD, name plot styles, and you'll be fine. So that's a brand new file, and so I've got a new file and I'm ready to go. Now, let's say it's time to save this file. Well, here's the most important and critical part of the overall process. Make sure that you save the file correctly is going to make or break you in this class, because you don't want to work for 3 hours, do all this good work, and then forget where you saved something and not be able to find it. So, with that in mind, when we've done some drawing and we're ready to save, we go back to the big A and we hit Save As and hit AutoCAD Drawing. Now here's the critical part. You can save the file to any location you want to, and it can be on your computer, it can be My Documents, it can be some kind of class folder that you have on a flash drive. Just depends on if you're taking this online or if you're maybe taking this in-house. But the point is, you have to know where you're saving it to. Typically, I suggest this. Make sure that your first choice up here at the top is My Documents. You can also click on the My Documents button here to make sure you're in there. Make sure you're in My Documents, and then create a new folder for perhaps this class. Whatever the class may be, maybe DFT 122, CAD 100, doesn't really matter. You can probably create a folder for this class, and we'll just say that it is CAD 100, for example, and hit enter. Double click to go inside it, and now we're ready to actually name the file and save it within this folder. Now, you will not turn this folder into me. You will, however, turn the file into me. Therefore, it's imperative that you name the file exactly as I'm about to instruct you. Failure to do so in this will result in a lot of problems for you. Okay? So here we go. To name the file, you come down to File Name, you select it, you can backspace out the letters there, and you make sure your caps button is on. If your caps lock is not on, you're going to have problems. Okay? You have to capitalize every letter in this naming. Okay? We have no lowercase in this class at all. Make sure you understand that. Now, for example, we decided we were in CAD 100, so we're going to say CAD 100 is the name of the class. If you're in DFT 122, or if you're in ME 205, you'll name the same way. ME 205, DFT 122, whatever your class is, letters of the class, number of the class, no space. So we've got the name of the class, then we go underscore, which is a shift and the minus sign at the top of your keyboard next to 0, underscore the semester letter, whether it's a spring or fall, S or F, and the last 2 digits of the year. For example, it could be spring 2010, or it could be fall 2012. It could be spring 2011. Okay? Doesn't really matter. It just matters you either have an F or S depending on fall or spring, and also S for summer if you're taking a summer class. And you have the last 2 letters of the year. Okay? So we'll just do spring 10 to represent spring 2010. Then, and this is also critical, underscore and your initials. For example, my initials are ENW, and that's super critical that you have your initials in there, otherwise we can't grade it and give it to the right person. So your initials, not mine, so I'd better not see an ENW on there at all. Underscore, and then whatever your assignment is. It could be homework 1, homework underscore 1. It could be lesson 1, assignment 1, or L1A1. It could be test underscore 1. It just depends. You'll be instructed to exactly what naming convention you use at the tail end of this file name, but just note that it's going to be something like that. So we'll just say lesson 1, assignment 1, for example. And I hit save, and the file saved. I can close AutoCAD down. Don't have to worry about saving change to drawing 1 is the first one we opened. And here's a very critical thing, is that I often go and check my documents, check that particular folder that I just created, and check to make sure that, yep, that drawing file is in there and it's stored exactly like I want it to be. So that'll be the end of this video. Move right on to your next one, and we'll talk some more.